Hey, what's going on? This is my submission for the Oneplus Lab. So, since I don't have a OnePlus phone, as you can see, I'm going to be doing a review on my current phone, the Essential phone. It was more of an interesting phone, that's why I wanted to make this video alongside my submission, as it was a one-off. Two quick notes. I thoroughly apologize that the video is filmed in vertical, and all camera comparisons are done in Gcam, besides 360 cam shutting down. So anyway, let's jump right into the hardware. This phone is rocking a Snapdragon 835 and 4 GB of RAM. And due to its fairly light Android skin, considering it's just stock Android with very little applied over it, the only essential bloat is one setting in settings, and in developer settings access to notch area. This phone doesn't slow down. Tops I've used around 3.6 GB of RAM, and that's when I'm dual screening games like this, and I actually have music in the background. Anyway, let's do a quick hop into the build quality. As you saw in that last shot, everything is one-handed, and the sides actually are made of titanium. Honestly, I don't really feel a difference. It does feel heavier than aluminum. There's also ceramic back. The issue with this is that these were the selling points of the phone, and that's actually why the prices have dropped so low, as this was enough to verify. There's also no wireless charging, so it's kind of an L there. But on the bottom, we have a SIM tray. I'm pretty sure this can also run CDMA, the Sprint model, USB-C, and a mono speaker. Mono speaker is not bad for being a mono unit, though I would have preferred to see stereo. The USB-C port is the only port on the phone. There's no micro SD expansion, and you have to use a headphone dongle. This phone kind of reminds me of a 2020 style phone, and was surprisingly ahead of its time in terms of design, port selection, and just general look and feel. It's very weird. Let's hop into something that a lot of the market has phased out and opted for a more futuristic technology. That's right, the rear-facing fingerprint scanner. I'm surprised that's actually this useful. When I was first looking at phones, because I was switching from an iPhone 6, which had a broken Touch ID when I got it, I thought, well, I should just go for under screen. Turns out I actually really like the rear fingerprint scanner. It works very well, it's super fast as you can see here. I can just double tap to unlock. And I like pulling down the notification shade that way because I don't have to touch any elements on the screen, as especially if you're holding in landscape orientation while watching YouTube, you can wind up swiping off the video and doing a bunch of weird stuff. And I actually really like the fingerprint scanner, and I think it should stay in more phones, but sadly, a lot of OEMs put lower quality stuff in their mid-range phones, making the underscreen optical stuff quite useless. Quick note, Android 10 removed Trust Face because it was mildly insecure, so there's no face unlocking method in this phone at the moment. I'm sad to see the rear-facing fingerprint sensor go, as it's actually quite a nice utility, but I'm willing to make do without it. Rest in peace. Quick thing, there is also NFC on this phone, and it's on the bottom part of the phone, which is kind of an inconvenient placing. Another aspect I'd obviously like to touch on is the part of the phone that you interact with, screen. So here we have a Quad HD panel, but it has a weird aspect ratio, a 19 by 10 aspect ratio compared to the traditional roughly 18 by 9 or 19 to 19.5 by 9. These few extra millimeters here and there make it a little hard to reach over if you're using your left hand to go skip an ad. And you can't watch Quad HD content in YouTube, as the 19 by 10 aspect ratio forbids this because it's annoying. I know. And another thing that I'd recommend doing is, by default, the YouTube app actually cuts a little into the notch, so I'd recommend going into developer settings, which you can find in system, then click advanced, then click developer settings, and go to the only essential feature in the developer settings, which is hide notch, because by default YouTube cuts in a little. So it is an IPS panel with a max brightness of 500 nits, and as you can see out here, there's no problem. It shines quite brightly. It's not really obscured besides the glare, and honestly, I haven't used a phone with an OLED panel, but I really like this panel. Sure, it's not the greatest, it doesn't have a high refresh rate or anything, but honestly, I'm totally fine with this. It's a great display, and sure, it does have a little bit of bezel on the bottom, but if you have a high notch on, it's not too big of a deal. Let's jump into the cameras. So here's a portrait shot, and here's some landscape shots that really impressed me with their dynamic range, ability, portrait usage. So this is one of the shots I'd like to point out the detail on. Just incredible how good the detail is. And here, you can see the varying bokeh, as it's not anything too big, but if you look at the edges of certain leaves to the end, there's a difference. Here's a picture of my friend. I did ask his permission. Everything is great, but there's a slight obscured area at the back, and this is a great job identifying individual hairs, as obviously this is Gcam. Another example of that is this flower right here. I took multiple of these because I want to see how it go about handling individual flowers, and I think it handled and separated the foreground and the background really well, obviously, as this is Gcam. The night mode, on the other hand, was kind of a letdown. The viewfinder, all these images were in focus, but not in the final cut. Upcoming is the video test. I'm going to tell you now, don't buy this phone for video. This is the G.
Alright, so this is a video and stabilization test. So I'm just walking around, backyard, saturation, exposure. Video doesn't look very sharp on the screen. It doesn't automatically focus too well. I don't think it even does. Mostly because this is running Gcam. Stabilization. Hold on. So I think this is going to be very jittery, even though in the viewfinder it looks fine.
Speaking of mildly disappointing cameras, let's talk about this accessory, which is a fun toy, but it's just not very good and something I wouldn't use regularly. So we do have the 360 camera. Yes, I did open an app here by accident. So this 360 camera was something that would clip onto the back of the phone with those pins that you saw on the back of the phone. So the issue with this is there's a lot of issues with this. It generates a lot of heat, and in about 5 minutes, my battery was drained from 100% to about 82%. It's not very battery efficient, and there is actually disparity in color on both cameras, and images aren't very good. They are dual 16 megapixels though, if you care about hardware. This is some footage that I took after I connected the 360 camera. So my phone at the time was around 50% charge, and the phone got stuck in a boot loop because the camera just shut it off. It's extremely annoying, and make sure if you're going to use this accessory, your phone is fully charged and you're near power. Let's take a look at the most definitive part of the phone, the software. This phone is running the cleanest version of Android 10. You'll find the only real bloat is the stock camera and two little settings that Essentials put in for usage diagnostics and dev settings access to notch. One of my favorite parts about Android 10 is the gesture navigations, as yes, it is iPhone style, but the swipe to go back from every edge is just great. I absolutely love it. It's honestly some other quirks and issues I noticed. Bluetooth every few minutes might disconnect for about 2 or 3 seconds. It is mildly annoying, but it's not too big of a deal, as the phone's known for this. So this does have a curved panel at the top, yet flat at the bottom. So, besides me showing off the corner, you might be wondering why I shoved the battery indicator in your face. So, sometimes when I'm watching the phone or using YouTube on it, and the battery will just stay, typically when it's between 50, I'm going to say 3 and 49%, I'll watch YouTube for an hour and a half at 1080p, and it just won't drain in percent. It will just stay there. I'm not sure if that's a glitch, but battery seems to run fine completely afterwards. I maybe a glitch. I like it. I know it's kind of stupid to put battery stuff this late in the video, but on this phone we have a 3040 milliamp hour battery. My battery is degraded to around 2500 some milliamp hours, and I still get 5 hours screen on time watching 1080p video on YouTube. So for the charging brick that comes by default, we have a 27-watt fast charger. Nothing is branded with this phone. It's kind of annoying. You don't know if it's unofficial. And it moves quite fast, and I can top this phone up in about 35 minutes. And the charger is USB-C to USB-C. It might have been an odd decision in 2017, but I don't think it's that odd of a decision now. And honestly, I don't mind it too much, as nobody really needs USB-A, as explained by MKBHD. My final thoughts. Honestly, I'm having a great experience with this phone. With the 5.71-inch display, I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier, I can reach every corner, no problem. It's a great one-handed phone, and paired with the great panel, video content is clean and crisp, and definitely outperforms anything you'd find at its current price, which is anywhere between 120 to 100 and I'm going to say $90. It clearly outperforms everything. And with its specs, it obviously outdoes anything in that price range. Sure, you're buying it used, but honestly, people should buy more used products. and it's great. It's smooth. The software experience is Android with nothing bogging it down. Sure, it lacks some special features like finger swipe for screenshots, no excess gestures, kind of bad camera, please install Gcam. But honestly, I've also heard this phone is very easy to root, so if you're into that, you can also buy the Sprint version as there's no hardware difference, you can just flash ROM. Honestly, this phone has been so clean, so smooth, so fast, and stuff like Gboard, Google Photos, Gcam, all these little gestures here and there, albeit not major, clearly make this experience something worth getting, especially at this low price point. Sure, it doesn't get software updates and all that. But this phone is fun, it's good, and I would totally recommend it as an introductory experience to Android. Hey, I hope you like my submission for the OnePlus Lab program. I just quickly like to thank OnePlus for this program. It's a great opportunity, and I hope you all stay safe during this tough time. I'm sorry about filming vertical and all that. I'm sorry about the audio. This is my first experience with Final Cut, and I was trying it out for the first time, and my Mac's speaker. Hold on. Let's say a loud good. Alright, so yeah, that's the loudest it gets because it's kind of annoying. Sorry about all the audio, any video glitches. I'm trying to better myself, and I'm sorry if this seemed more like an overview than a review. I thoroughly apologize, but I've enjoyed this phone. I hope you consider my submission. See ya!